So today we're going to talk about a quick homebuyer 101 exercise that you can do to make sure you do not end up house poor. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, so if you're new to the channel, I'm a mortgage lender licensed in 48 states. Yes, I want to be your mortgage lender. Okay, let's get into it. I was thinking about this because here's what you guys need to know. So when a lender's qualifying you for a mortgage and we're looking at what max debt to income is, what that means is your payment versus your income. When we're looking at the max, we're looking at your gross income. And your gross is before taxes. So what I've always thought was interesting, especially the older I get and the more I pay attention to this, is that our guidelines are a national level, right? So what that means is that, let's say for instance, they're like, ooh, anything where that payment is over 43% of that gross income, that's scary. Well, here's the thing, it's scarier in more states than others because lenders are not looking at your net pay. Okay? Lenders are not looking at your net pay. And here's the thing, how many of us actually look at our paychecks, right? So many of us have our money on direct deposit, the money comes, great, good, bills paid, okay, let's go out to dinner, call it a night, right? Yeah, well here's the thing, if you're looking at buying a house, I want you to become very comfortable with your pay stubs and I want you to look at your net income. A quick way to see if you're going to be house poor is if you look at the payment that the mortgage lender says you qualify for, then you look at your net pay. Because sometimes this can actually be higher than this. And you're like, what? I'm not kidding. It really can. And here's why. Because lenders aren't looking at everything that gets taken out. And depending on your income level, states are very different. Florida, no income tax. California, up to 13. And then they have another disability tax on that. And they have some additional taxes as well. And we're not looking at how much you contribute to your 401k. We're not looking at how much your medical and dental is, right? Like we all know that medical can really take out a good chunk of your pay. So is there the possibility that a lender could qualify you for a mortgage where the payment's more than your net pay? Yeah, there is. There is. And that's why you want to make sure you at least do that quick exercise, okay? It's really quick. And if you look at it and you go, okay, the payment's going to be $4,000 and I net $6,000, okay, do we have a car payment? Do we have daycare? What big expenses do you have on top of that? Now, look, I would always suggest that you do a budget. There's no better way to figure out if you can afford a payment than by doing a budget. Trusting a lender is a terrible idea because we don't look at all of that. We just look at the big pretty number, okay? So if you do a full budget, that is the best thing to do. But if you're like, I'm not gonna do that, Jen. We both know I'm not gonna do that. At least do this, okay? Look at your net pay. Look at the payment and think about, is this gonna work? And if you're like, do a budget. And if you're like, I don't wanna do it, then go lower, okay? If you're feeling like this and you're not doing any additional math and you're gonna be lazy about it, okay, I'm gonna be blunt, you're being lazy. If you're nervous and you're not doing the math, that's lazy, then you need to drop down what you're paying. It's that simple. You're gonna have to go for less because assuming that your net pay is suddenly gonna jump, unless you have a raise in the works, unless you're looking at your net pay and you're like, oh, well, I contribute to all these different things that I don't really have to, so I can change it. But really work with your net pay and the projected monthly mortgage payment. Now, if you're like, I'm not ready to go shopping yet, I haven't even talked to a lender, but how can I do this exercise? We have an app, it's Rate. So if you go to the App Store, whether it's Apple or Android, look for Rate, literally R-A-T-E, Guaranteed Rate is the company. Download the app, it's free, it has mortgage calculators. It has an affordability. I don't really like that. I'm not gonna lie. It's not my favorite calculation. I wouldn't recommend it, but I do think the app is really good for just looking at payments so that you can look at that. You can pick me as your loan officer if you want. It will show you where rates are. You can play with different scenarios. all that fun stuff, but you really want to start looking at net versus the payment. It also has yoga. If you're like, Jen, I want something, it has yoga, okay? We gave you yoga too. So that can be a good exercise to do. But if you're already pre-approved, what I'm gonna strongly urge you to do is make sure that the lender's going over the mortgage payment with you, and then make sure you're looking at your net. And if you're nervous at all, do that budget. And once again, you should be doing that budget anyways. So just a quick for first-time home buyers so you don't end up being house poor. Being house poor is a miserable existence, and it's something you definitely want to avoid. Thanks for watching.